Hey, what's up y'all, it's Marcus. In this week's video we have the R5, the Z9, and now we're throwing the GFX into the mix, the 50S2, and we're going to check out the dynamic range. We're going to push these files to the limit and see which camera wins. The files will be in the description down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. This is going to be long and nerdy, so they're going to be chapter points inside this video, so check it out. Also, Lens Rentals gave me a 15% off coupon for you guys if you use my link below if you want to rent any one of these and check it out, see what's right for you, if you like it, if you don't like it. And also I'm having a $25 off my course sale, so stick around for that preview and then we'll hop into the video. Please go to ProPhotoEdits.com where you can download my Lightroom presets and Photoshop actions. And I just want to remind you guys that my online creative lighting and editing course is up right now. I get asked about this every single day on Instagram. If you're not following me, the link will be down below. But how do you get these in-camera effects? I don't do any of this in Photoshop. This is all done in camera. So I put 12 courses in here, 12 different photo shoots, and I explain what tools I use to get these looks in camera. And I usually just use one light. Sometimes I use one light and one LED, but I don't have a dynamic lighting setup. Everything you're looking at here right now is explained in the course. We're over, I think, 300 or 400 people in the course right now, so it's really growing and people are really happy with this. And we've just added some extra things that you're looking at right now with the light throwing technique, all done in camera. So you get the raw files, the Lightroom presets, the Photoshop actions, screen recording. I have me editing these looks that you're looking at now, and I've also included a new creative gelling course to get you these looks like this in camera, so consider that. Alright guys, so let's get into this file comparison for this week. And this is just a continuation of last week's video, and we're going to have the R5, the Z9, and now the GFX 50S2 underexposed, regular exposure, overexposed. We're going to bring the files back to where we think they look fine and see if we can, who breaks first, what the dynamic range is like on each, what the files look like. And again, these will be raw files that you can download in the description. And I want to clear something up from last week where it was a little bit unfair, I guess, with the Z9. Being a little bit overexposed versus the Canon file. You have to remember that the 51.2 that I'm using on the Z9, the Nikon version has a higher T-stop. It doesn't let in as much light as the 51.2 RF does. So I'm kind of just trying to eyeball these, but I do have a new file for you guys from last week's comparison on the Z9. It's a little bit more fair. It's actually not very much overexposed, and I just want to let you see that really quick before we go into all the GFX files. Alright, so enough of the rambling. So this is what we had last week, and once we brought it back to here, and that was pretty horrendous, right? We took it down 2.65, and that was pretty horrendous, just like the way that the highlights would not, they just broke and broke and broke. And I finally broke a GFX file today. I just want to let you guys know that. But that's what we had last week, and we compared it to the 1-star over here, which was the R5. And as you can see, that's not that big of a difference. That's, yeah, well, okay, it's a little bit bigger than it should have been. And that's the R5 file. When we brought it back, it looked phenomenal to me. And this is the R5 out of the camera that was just untouched. I brought the whites up a little bit and the shadows up, but exposure wise, nothing. And that's the recovered file that started from here on the R5. Okay, so that was R5, showed that it and I dealt with this on the EOS R, as I've mentioned before, and a lot of other Canon cameras, they could not pull the highlights back very well. And underexposed, they didn't operate very well either, not to the standards I was used to from the Z7 D850. So now this week, just to clear this up real quick, we have this file from the Z9. We have this file. So it's not that overexposed, okay? It's really not that overexposed. And we're going to be comparing it versus, I'm just going to put these in comparison so you can see, and we'll do it together. Alright, so the R5 is on the right, 1 star, straight out of camera, way overexposed. The Z9 is on the left, 2 stars, nowhere near as overexposed, okay? I just want to let you guys know that I'm not picking favorites here, I just don't care. But if we start over here, and we're going to click on this side because we're going to have the Z9 file, and when I brought it back, this is what we have, right? Not bad. It's not bad, okay? And that was not coming from anything crazy. That was not coming from anything crazy. That was just coming from right here, right? And you can see how much more overexposed this file is that we haven't manipulated yet. And then we just pulled down the exposure, and that's what we got. So over here on the Canon side, 1 star, remember, we pulled this back all the way from there, and now they switch sides on me, of course, because this is what this program does all the time. Look how good the Canon file still looks, right? The Canon file was started out right here. Looks really good. That's incredibly overexposed. It's just like nightmare file that you would say, oh my god, what did I do? You should never shoot like that. I always shoot underexposed anyway, unless you're on film. So, and then we'll go back to this Nikon file that was just ever so slightly overexposed. Still, I wouldn't shoot like that. I always shoot underexposed, pretty much. And then we brought it back, and I'll zoom in. And even though the Nikon file was not very much overexposed at all, and the Canon file was just like nothing there, you can see that the Canon file on the R5 handles the highlights better, you know, considering how far overexposed it was. When we did that overexposed on the Nikon, it just lost everything. And I think the Z7, of course, would have fared way more, but there's a lot of confusion. I see people online all this time saying that the Z9 has the Z7 sensor. It does not. It's got incredible autofocus. It's got incredible video specs, and if you watch the end of last week's video, you'll see that the log files that I was able to pull out of there weren't really that great. And again, somebody can chime in, it was an NEV file and I can only open it in Resolve, but you can watch the end of that, and it just wasn't very log-ish, if you know what I mean, considering that I've shot log on everything from Sony to Canon to, I think this is the first Nikon camera. You had to do this weird hack to get a Z-log last time on the Z, and it wasn't really a real log file, so it was really punchy. But anyway, so there you have it, guys. In my opinion on just the clearing up the Nikon versus the Canon is that the Canon files on the R5, to be exact, coming from here, going all the way back to there, and then you have the Nikon file over here on the Z9, just barely being over, and then it looks okay, it looks decent, but you know, it wasn't nearly as overexposed. And when we got to the point where we were overexposing a lot, and then we brought it back, it just completely broke, which is understandable, right? It's understandable. That wouldn't have happened on the Z7. It would not have broke that much. All right, so let's just go into what we're going to do today as far as these files, and I'll let some of the footage play in the background as I talk about this, so we can see that what we did was just simple things in the studio. She had an LED light going on and 1 star, so this is going to be an R5 file, and this was started here really underexposed and brought it back to there. And like last week I said, it looks pretty good, right? It looks okay, but it had a lot more noise than the Nikon file, which I will show you in the studio down here, that started here way underexposed, very similar, and ended up here just with pulling it up to 340. Nothing else has been adjusted, and I think I put these together last week in comparison mode, and I think that the Nikon file, and I'll do it again real quick just so everyone can see, I think that the Nikon file had better pretty much everything. Okay, Nikon on the left here, remember 2 stars versus 1 star on the right, which is the Canon. R5, and you can see that the Canon has more noise, ever so slightly, but it does. And I think the color retention is better on the Z9, underexposed, and that could be the difference of it being underexposed by a third of a stop difference. And that might have brought this one up a little bit brighter than this one in post, but overall the Nikon file is just as good, if not better, underexposed in that controlled environment. Alright, so the newcomer this week is going to be number 3 star in the studio, and I can't wait to show you the video of my new studio that I built. I'm almost done with it. Alright, okay, so this is GFX in the studio, and it's way more underexposed than the other two. Okay, so this was, I'm gonna flip back over to the R5. You see, you can actually see her on the R5. She's gone on the GFX, and then on the Nikon Z9 with 2 stars, you can still see her. On the GFX file right here in studio, she's gone, because I knew this camera, I've shot it many times like this, done other videos, all the data is right here. There's nothing, there's no data, right? And you just bring it up, and you bring it up, and you bring it up, and it looks like nothing happened. It looks really, really, really good. I mean, I don't want to overexpose it by going all the way up to 5 stops, but look how incredible that is, right? And we'll zoom in and see the noise. Where was I at? ISO 100, 500th of a second. And of course there is some noise because I pulled this file back from the dead. I mean, it was actually a dead file. So we can compare that, and you can just do this on your own time there with the R5, because I don't want to make this video too long. And I think the GFX file looks a lot better, just being honest. You know, the highlights aren't as harsh. Again, it has that little pink magenta shift, which all GFX, all pretty much Fuji sensors have that, but it's a quick fix. And I have presets that you can download and use for all these different cameras that I made, but I'm not going to use them here because that would just taint the overall. Everything has to be apples to apples is what I'm saying. Alright, so then now let's go back to the outdoor test, and let's look at these files, and I'll show you where we started at and where we're going to end off. And let's start first, before we get into the overexposed stuff, let's start with the underexposed on each camera. Remember, 1 star is the R5. I'm just going to play them, and then we'll look at them together. That's pretty under, and I'm going to show you all the unders together to show that I matched them, you know, pretty decent. That's the R5 file, 1 star. GFX file, 3 stars, and I'm gonna get way crazier than that on the, because I did go way under. GFX file number 2, way under, okay. And then the Nikon file that was under the Z9, 2 stars, pretty much the same, right? So let's start with the Nikon first. Nikon went underexposed from there to plus 325 on the GFX. Let's just bring this up a decent amount. I actually already did here. That looks beautiful to me. I mean, it's airy, as you would expect, being underexposed, bringing stuff back, and I just brought up the shadows. I brought this up to 345 plus and plus 28, plus 21, and I mean, the thing about the GFX is you do have that magenta shift a little bit, but again, you can get rid of it pretty easily. So that file was the recovered GFX file. This file was the recovered Z9 file. Okay, do you see the difference there? It's really, I'm gonna put them side by side, so if you guys don't feel like downloading them. Z9, 2 stars. GFX, 3 stars. This file was just much better. Alright, as to be expected. you know, it's the dynamic range king. I mean, probably the 100 would be better. Some people like the 50, the GFX 50 even more file wise. So we'll go back to that versus the recovered GFX file. GFX on the right, R5 on the left. GFX wins. There's no debating that. GFX wins and underexposed, bringing back, and I could have told you that. I have different videos on that where I had to shoot really underexposed and heavy backlit warehouse where I shot, and the files were gorgeous. And just for giggles, I'll go ahead and replace this GFX file with the Z9 recovered file, and you can see that this file just has more life to it. The R5 file from the underexposed brought back Z9 file. Download these files so you'll see what I'm talking about. We started here with the Z9. We started here with the R5. We ended here with the R5. We ended here with the Z9. This is just a better file. It has more color. It has more depth. It doesn't have that photocopy thing going on. Okay. This is 3 stars. This is the GFX file. I pushed it way further than any file should be pushed, and I brought it back, and it did break. It broke in a more pleasing way than if I go down here and show you the Z9 file and how it broke. You get what I'm saying? Incredibly overexposed. When I pulled it back, it was unbearable how it broke. That wouldn't have happened on the Z7. It would have been better, I'll say that. The GFX file, way overexposed, brought back. And it's just the tip of the nose and the shoulders here. The rest of the file is still not, it's not translucent. It has depth, it has color. That's what you get in the GFX. And of course, if you ever take a file like this out of any camera, you're in trouble. There would be absolutely no reason to ever do that. I'm just pushing it to the limit. So let's do a more natural overexposed shot. This is the GFX, 3 stars. Naturally overexposed, just like something that's doable, right? So that looks decent. Let me make a virtual copy of that and reset it so we'll know where we came from. We'll have access to it pretty quickly. Overexposed on the GFX, brought back, right? Overexposed on the R5, 1 star, remember? By a lot. Brought back. That looks pretty damn good. Because if you remember, this file right here is our baseline R5. Didn't change the exposure at all. Versus the recovered file that started from here, which is more exposed than the Nikon file that we're going to use this time, just to make it a little bit you know, easier on the Nikon. Okay, just to show you where we started with these, this is the R5 file over here, way overexposed compared to the new Z9 file, which people said the last one was too overexposed. Now we have one that's not quite as overexposed as even the R5 file. Okay, and we're going to bring this one back. That looks pretty decent, right? It's not bad. The highlights, if you just don't hit that certain limit, they're not bad. And then you go back over here to the R5 file that's way insanely overexposed, and you bring it back, and it still looks a bit more natural, I think. If you zoom in, and it was brought back from the crazy, just terrible overexposed round up there near 4 stops, 5 stops, and it still looks every bit as good, if not better, than dynamic range on the Z9. Alright guys, so enough of the nerdiness. I will see you next week, and I will be doing something that's more fun again. You know, creative, because I have a ton of those videos. And always, like this week my course is on sale. If you want to learn how I'm doing all the creative gelling, creative lighting, the editing, how to get those shots in camera, and up your game on that level. And then My new studio will be done real soon, like in the next couple weeks, and I'm gonna start going back in and do some in-person classes and stuff like that. But either way, I love you guys. This is Marcus. I will see you guys next week. Later. Download the files in the description. See you later.